I will set no wicked thing before my eyes. Psalm 101, verse 3. Does the Bible actually say masturbation is a sin? The answer is more nuanced than many Christians have been taught. There is no biblical verse that directly says you should not masturbate. Even the story of Onan in Genesis chapter 38 is primarily about his refusal to fulfill his obligation to Tamar, not a direct prohibition against masturbation. So rather than claiming scripture says something it doesn't, we should examine the biblical principles surrounding lust, sexual thoughts, self-control, pornography, conscience, temptation, and sexual purity. Number 1, the Bible never directly mentions masturbation. Now, this should be established first. There is no passage explicitly identifying masturbation and declaring the physical act itself sinful. Now, that doesn't automatically make every circumstance surrounding it acceptable. It means Christians should be careful about turning an inference from biblical principles into a direct biblical command. Never make the Bible say more or less than it actually says. Number 2, Jesus addressed lust. In Matthew 5:28, it says, "But I say unto you that whosoever look on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart." Now, this gets much closer to the central issue. If masturbation is accompanied by deliberately fantasizing sexually about someone, Jesus' teaching concerning lust becomes directly relevant. The biblical question, therefore, isn't merely, what am I doing physically? It's also about what is happening in my heart and mind. Number 3, pornography creates an additional biblical issue. Psalm 101:3 says, "I will set no wicked thing before my eyes." Pornography and masturbation are separate issues, even though they are frequently connected. Pornography intentionally provides sexual imagery designed to stimulate lust. Therefore, someone asking whether masturbation is biblically permissible while using pornography must also address what Scripture teaches about the eyes, lust, sexual purity, and what we deliberately place before ourselves. Number 4, Christians are called to self-control. Galatians chapter 5 verses 22 and 23. It says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance." Temperance includes self-control. And this produces another important question. Am I controlling this desire, or is this desire controlling me? Something doesn't have to be specifically or explicitly named in Scripture to become spiritually unhealthy when it gains mastery over us. Keep that in mind. Number 5, don't allow anything to master you. 1 Corinthians 6:12. "All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. I will not be brought under the power of any." Paul establishes an important Christian principle. Something may not have an explicit biblical prohibition and still become harmful if it becomes compulsive, controlling, or spiritually destructive. So ask yourself, can I say no? If the answer is consistently no, the issue has become larger than pleasure. Number 6, guard what you allow into your mind. Philippians 4:8. "Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, think on these things." Christian sexuality isn't merely about physical behavior. Scripture repeatedly addresses the mind and heart. What are you imagining? What are you watching? What thoughts are you intentionally cultivating? the Bible's concern reaches deeper than outward behavior. Number 7, don't ignore your conscience. Romans chapter 14, verse 23. For whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Romans 14 isn't specifically discussing masturbation, so this verse shouldn't be presented as though it were. But Paul establishes an important principle concerning conscience. Don't knowingly act against your conviction before God. If something continually leaves you spiritually conflicted, examine why rather than simply suppressing the conviction. Number 8, sexual desire itself is not evil. Now this distinction matters because God created human beings with sexuality. Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. So God created man in his own image, male and female created he them. Sexual desire itself shouldn't be automatically treated as dirty or shameful. The biblical issue is how our desires are directed and governed. Christian teaching should encourage holiness without teaching people to despise the bodies and desires God created. Number 9, don't confuse temptation with sin. James chapter 1 verses 14 and 15. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. Experiencing sexual temptation isn't automatically identical to committing sin. And James describes a progression. Desire can become temptation, and temptation can develop into sinful action. That distinction matters because some Christians live under unnecessary condemnation simply because they experience temptation. And finally, number 10, the bigger question is who controls you? So instead of reducing the entire discussion to is masturbation a sin, yes or no, Scripture leads us toward deeper questions. Is lust involved? Is pornography involved? Has it become compulsive? Is it controlling you? Am I deliberately feeding sexual fantasies? Does it violate the conscience before God? Is it strengthening or weakening your pursuit of purity? Those questions provide a more biblical response, or rather responsibility, examining than pretending there is a verse explicitly mentioning masturbation when there isn't. So a closing thought. The Bible doesn't explicitly say masturbation is a sin, but it says plenty about lust, purity, self-control, pornography, related principles, conscience, temptation, and allowing desires to control us. So the strongest biblical conclusion isn't built upon a verse that doesn't exist. Don't just ask, can I do this? Ask, can I do this without lust controlling my mind, without feeding impurity, without violating my conscience, and without allowing pleasure to become my master? See, that turns the conversation away from shame and toward biblical discernment, honesty, and self-control. So with that being said, continue to renew your mind. Enough said.